Have you ever wondered if the hero is not a saviour but a weapon used to bury the past? We look at the statues of marble, the white stone bleached by the sun, and we see strength. But what if the stone was once painted in garish colours, and the stories we tell are merely the scars of a wound that never healed? We drift into the myth of Hercules not to find a role model, but to find a crime scene. A crime against memory. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Tell me where you are listening from, and what time the shadows fall on your wall. The story does not begin with a labour. It begins with a silence that is broken by a scream. We are taught that Hercules is the son of Zeus, a demigod of immense power, drafted into service to prove his divinity. But if we peel back the layers of the poet's praise, we find something far more unsettling. We find a man who has lost his mind. The narrative tells us that Hera, the jealous queen of heaven, sent a madness upon him. But what is this madness really? In the ancient world, madness was not merely a chemical imbalance. It was a possession, a displacement of the soul. The Greeks called this hate, ruin, folly, a blindness sent by the gods. Hercules, in this fit of induced psychosis, murders his own wife, Megara, and their children. He burns his own lineage to the ground. Pause here. Let the weight of that destruction settle. Why does the myth of the greatest builder of civilization start with the utter annihilation of his own future? Perhaps this is not just a biography of a man, but a biography of an era. The madness may be the chaotic transition between ages, a civilizational reboot where the old family, the old structures, and the old bloodlines had to be violently purged to make way for a new, harsher order. The hero wakes up from his fugue state covered in the blood of the past with no memory of how he got there. Is this not how all recorded history begins? With a gap, with a fire that consumed what came before, leaving the survivors to build upon the ashes with guilt as their mortar. Desperate for absolution, Hercules travels to Delphi. He seeks the Pythia, the oracle who sits over the chasm in the earth, inhaling the ethylene vapours that rise from the tectonic fault lines below. The gases induce a trance, a connection to the chthonic forces that remember what the surface world has forgotten. The oracle does not offer him comfort. She gives him a new name. Before this he was Alcaeus. Now she calls him Heracles, the glory of Hera. This is the supreme irony, or perhaps the supreme clue. He must carry the name of the very force that drove him mad. He is told to serve his cousin, King Eurystheus, a man far weaker than himself, and complete 10 labours, later extended to 12. He submits. The solar hero submits to the lunar calendar, the 12 stations of the zodiac, the 12 turns of the great wheel. The first labour is the Nemean lion. On the surface it is a simple monster hunt. A beast is terrorising the countryside of Nemea, but this is no ordinary lion. The texts say its skin is invulnerable. Swords bend against its flank, arrows shatter upon impact. Bronze, the high technology of the age, is useless against it. Why? What kind of biological entity possesses a hide that rejects metal? Some ancient commentators suggested the lion fell from the moon, a Selenian beast. If we listen to the whisper of the symbol rather than the literal text, we might ask, is the lion a creature of flesh, or a constellation? The Nemean lion corresponds to the sign of Leo. The sun enters Leo in the height of summer, the time of scorching heat. But there is a darker possibility. The invulnerable skin suggests armour. Was this a biological remnant of the megafauna that roamed Europe during the Pleistocene, a creature that should have been extinct, a survivor of the Ice Age that refused to die? Or was it something else entirely? A machine, a tank, a metaphor for a technology that the bronze-wielding Greeks could not comprehend, and thus mythologized as an unkillable beast. Hercules cannot cut it. He cannot pierce it. He must use the oldest weapon of all, the grip. He enters the lion's cave. The cave has two entrances. He blocks one, forcing the darkness to face him. This is the first lesson of the mysteries. You cannot conquer the shadow by running from it. You must seal the exit and inhabit the dark. He grapples with the beast. The struggle is silent. It is a battle of breath. Hercules wraps his immense arms around the lion's neck and squeezes. He denies it air. He extinguishes the spirit, the pneuma. It is a brutish, intimate way to kill. There is no distance of the spear, no elegance of the sword. It is flesh against fur, the crushing of the windpipe. When the beast is dead, Hercules faces a new problem. He needs the skin as proof, but the skin cannot be cut. He sits there, perhaps for hours, perhaps for days, staring at the carcass of the thing that almost killed him. Eventually the gods, or his own intuition, whisper the solution. Only the lion can cut the lion. He uses the beast's own claws to flay it. He turns the weapon of the enemy against itself. This is a profound shift in consciousness. The hero does not bring a tool from the outside. He utilizes the inherent nature of the obstacle to dismantle it. He wears the skin. This is the image we all know. The man with the lion's head as a helmet, the paws tied around his neck. But consider what this means. To be invulnerable, he must wrap himself in the death of his adversary. He wears the corpse of the past. He becomes the thing he destroyed. From this point on, Hercules is never seen without this cloak. He is a man, but he is silhouetted as a beast. It suggests that to survive the labours to come, to survive the descent into the deep mysteries of the earth and sky, one cannot remain merely human. One must integrate the animal, the savage, the unbreakable skin of the star beast. The Nemean lion is the first step in the cycle of procession. The sun kills the lion to move the epoch forward, but notice what is lost. The lion was the guardian of Nemea. With its death, the wild, uncontrollable magic of that region is broken, tamed, brought under the control of the city-state. The monsters of mythology are often just the gods of the old religion, demonized by the new. By strangling the lion, Hercules is strangling the old way of being. He's enforcing the order of Zeus, the order of the patriarchy, the order of the conscious mind over the instinctual lunar darkness. And yet, the silence lingers. As he walks away from Nemea, the skin heavy on his shoulders, the first labour is done. But the madness has not left him. It has only been quieted. The blood debt remains. The ghost of his family still walks behind him, unseen. He has conquered the solid, the impenetrable earth beast. But the next challenge will not be solid. It will be fluid. It will be multiple. It will rise from the swamps where the water refuses to flow, where the history of the earth is trapped in stagnant pools. The solid lion was a test of strength. The next test will be a test of the mind and the memory of water. We drift now, away from the dry heat of Nemea, toward the marshes of Lerna. The air grows heavy with moisture and decay. The question remains, if the lion fell from the moon, what is hiding in the water, and why, when you cut off one head of the history, we're told, do two more grow in its place? The dust of the lion's cave has settled, but the air has not cleared. It has only grown heavier, thicker, clinging to the skin like a wet film. We leave the sun-scorched rocks of Nemea and descend into the lowlands, towards the coast of the Argolid. Here, the ground softens. The solid certainty of the earth gives way to the treacherous ambiguity of the swamp. This is Lerna. In the ancient geography of the soul, places were not merely coordinates on a map, They were spiritual conditions, and Lerna was a place of deep, unsettlable unease. The ancients believed it was one of the entrances to the underworld, a porous boundary where the dead could seep back into the land of the living. It is here that the second labour lies waiting. We are told Hercules seeks the Hydra, a serpent, a water beast, a dragon with 9 heads, or perhaps 50 or 100, depending on which trembling witness you believe. One of these heads is immortal. The breath of the creature is lethal. Its very tracks are poisonous. But let us pause and look at the water before we look at the monster. The name Hydra shares its root with Haida, the Greek word for water. Is it possible that the beast was never a beast at all? The region of Lerna is a karst landscape, a geological sponge of limestone riddled with sinkholes, underground rivers and pressurized springs. For a civilization trying to establish agriculture and order, an unpredictable water table is a monster. Imagine the frustration of the early engineers. You block one spring, you cut off one head, and the hydrostatic pressure forces the water to burst through the weak limestone in 2 other places. 2 heads grow back for every one you sever. The myth begins to look less like a creature feature and more like a memory of a massive failed terraforming project. Hercules, the hero, may well be Hercules, the hydraulic engineer, the man sent to tame the chaotic fluids of the earth. But why does the story insist on the venom? Why is the Hydra not just a flood, but a poisonous flood? Perhaps the water is a metaphor for something more dangerous, a lineage, a heresy, or a bloodline that the new Olympian order needed to eradicate. The Hydra lived beneath a plane tree at the source of the Amymone spring. Trees and springs are the classic markers of the pre-Greek mother goddess cults. The serpent is her symbol. By attacking the Hydra, Hercules is not just draining a swamp, he is attacking the root system of an older culture, a matriarchal power structure that regenerates every time the patriarchy tries to cut it down. The violence of the labour is the violence of erasure. The venom is the dangerous idea that the old ways are still valid, and toxicity that threatens the sanitized narrative of Zeus. Hercules steps into the mire. He covers his mouth and nose with a cloth to filter the miasma. He draws the beast out by firing burning arrows into its den. Fire against water. The elemental war begins. The creature emerges, undulating, a multiplicity of heads hissing in a chorus of chaos. Hercules swings his sword, the same bronze that failed against the lion, but here it cuts true. Heads fall. But the biology of the Hydra is cancerous. It is uncontrolled replication. From the stump of the neck, the flesh bubbles and splits, and 2 new heads lunge forward. The hero is overwhelmed. He's trapped in a loop of futility. Brute force, the solution to the Nemean lion, is useless here. This is a different kind of test. The lion was a test of strength. The Hydra is a test of endurance and adaptation. The problem multiplies the more you engage with it, and then a strange detail interrupts the battle. A giant crab, Karkinos, crawls out of the swamp to aid the Hydra. It pinches Hercules' foot. It seems absurd, a minor nuisance in a battle of titans. But the crab is the zodiacal sign of Cancer. In the great celestial clock, the sun moves from Leo, the lion, into Cancer, the crab. The myth is tracking the stars. Hercules crushes the crab under his heel, dismissing the astrological timekeeper, but the pain remains. He realizes he cannot win alone. This is the first crack in the image of the solitary hero. He calls for Aeolus, his nephew, his charioteer, his shadow. Aeolus brings the fire. He brings the technology of cauterization. As Hercules severs a head, Aeolus rushes in with a burning brand, scorching the open wound, sealing the veins before the regenerative magic can take hold. They work in a gruesome rhythm, slice, Burn, slice, burn. The air fills with the smell of charred meat and sulphur. The swamp boils. They are sterilizing the earth. They are performing surgery on the landscape, removing the reproductive capacity of the old world. Finally, only the immortal head remains. This head cannot die. It represents the core truth, the indestructible seed of what the Hydra stood for. Hercules cuts it off and buries it alive. He places a massive rock over it, trapping it beneath the earth. It is not destroyed, it is merely suppressed. It lies there still, according to the legend, hissing beneath the stone, waiting for the weight of the new world to lift. History is full of these buried heads, ideas and peoples pushed underground, silenced but listening, waiting for the cracks to appear in the pavement above. But the labour ends with a twist that will doom the hero. Hercules dips his arrows into the Hydra's blood. The bile, the venom, the concentrated toxicity of the beast coats his weapons. He has killed the monster, yet he adopts its most lethal attribute. He weaponizes the poison. This is a profound violation. A hero of the sun should fight with light, with clean strength. By taking the poison, Hercules internalizes the very evil he was sent to destroy. He carries the Hydra with him now in his quiver. This venom will be the instrument of his greatest victories, but it will also be the cause of his own agonizing death years later. The monster you kill leaves a trace in you. The silence you enforce becomes the silence that suffocates you. When Hercules returns to King Eurystheus, the king refuses to count this labour. "You had help," he sneers. "Iolaus helped you with the firebrands." The labour is declared void. The effort, the pain, the suppression of the ancient spring, it is all dismissed on a technicality. This, too, feels shockingly modern. The shifting of goalposts, the denial of achievement, it tells us that the powers that control the narrative, the kings, the institutions, will never be satisfied. They will always demand more. The 10 labours become 12, the finish line receding like the horizon. Hercules stands before the throne, smelling of swamp water and burnt flesh, his arrows dripping with death. He says nothing. He knows now that this is not about redemption. It is about endurance. He has learned that some heads cannot be cut off. They must be burned. And he's learned that even the earth itself can be an enemy. The water has been conquered, but the wildness of the world is vast. The king looks at the map, his finger tracing a line away from the swamps, up towards the mountains of Arcadia. "The stag," the king whispers, "bring me the stag of Artemis." From the slow, suffocating mud of Lerna, we must now turn our eyes to the elusive, shimmering speed of the forest. The heaviness of the earth gives way to the fleeting nature of time itself. The Hydra was a beast of too much matter. The stag is a beast of almost no matter at all, a creature of gold and wind. But why would the gods demand the capture of something so sacred? And what happens when you try to catch a creature that moves faster than the turning of the year? The poison dries on the arrow tips, invisible now, but waiting. The heavy rock sits over the immortal head in the swamp, and the hero begins to run. We leave the heavy, poisonous vapours of the swamp behind. The air changes now. It thins, becoming crisp and sharp, stinging the lungs with the scent of pine and impending frost. We are moving from the lowlands of the subconscious to the high peaks of the impossible. The hero has waded through the mud of creation. Now he must chase the fleeting shimmer of time itself. The king demands a new prize, not a monster to be killed, but a miracle to be caught. The third labour is the Ceryneian Hind, and here the history we think we know begins to blur into the geometry of the stars. The creature is a paradox. It is described as a female deer, a hind, yet it bears antlers of pure gold. In the biological world, female deer do not grow antlers, except for the reindeer of the far frozen north. Was this creature a straggler from the Arctic, a survivor of the receding ice sheets, wandering lost in the warm forests of Arcadia? Or was it never an animal at all? The golden horns and the hooves of bronze suggest a machine, an automaton created by Hephaestus, or perhaps a constellation brought down to earth. The deer is sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the wild moon, the twin of the sun. To touch it is blasphemy. To kill it is to invite a curse that can unravel a bloodline. Hercules does not hunt the hind, he stalks it, and this is where the myth shifts its tempo. The labour of the lion took days. The labour of the hydra took perhaps weeks. The labour of the hind takes a year, a full solar cycle. Why? Why does the strongest man in the world need 12 months to catch a deer? Because he is not chasing a beast. He is chasing the year itself. He is tracking the procession of the equinoxes, the slow, backward drift of the stars. He follows the creature from the banks of the Ladon River to the mythical land of Hyperborea, the land beyond the north wind. He traverses the known map and steps off the edge of it. This journey to the north is significant. In many ancient traditions, the north is the pivot of the heavens, the point around which all stars rotate. By chasing the golden stag to the pole, Hercules is attempting to fix the calendar, to recalibrate a time system that had fallen out of sync. He is the needle trying to find true north in a world where the magnetic poles are shifting. He cannot shoot the deer because you cannot kill time without stopping the universe. You can only catch it, hold it for a moment, and acknowledge its power. He finally corners the creature as it crosses a river. He fires an arrow, not to kill, but to pin. He pierces the forelegs, slipping the bronze tip between the bone and the tendon, drawing not a single drop of blood. It is a feat of impossible surgical precision. It is the act of a man who has mastered his own violence. He lifts the living, breathing symbol of the moon onto his shoulders. He carries the light, just as he wore the darkness of the lion. But on his return, he meets Artemis and Apollo. They block his path. The gods are angry. This is the first time the hero is held accountable by the divine forces he is intruding upon. He bargains with them. He pleads necessity. He blames the king, Eurystheus. It is a chilling moment. The hero admits he is just a tool, a slave to a lesser man's command. The gods let him pass, perhaps because they know that the tool will eventually break the hand that wields it. But the silence of the high mountains does not last. The king is not satisfied with the delicate capture of the moon beast. He demands a counterweight. He demands the Erymanthian boar. If the hind was swift, graceful and feminine, the boar is heavy, brutal and masculine. It is the chaotic force of the earth, a plough that tears up the roots of civilization. The boar lives on Mount Erymanthus, a place of deep winters. To find the boar, Hercules must pass through the land of the centaurs. And here, the tragedy of the Hydra returns to haunt him. The poison he carries in his quiver is not done with him yet. He stops at the cave of Pholus, a civilized centaur. They eat. The air is cold. Hercules asks for wine. Pholus hesitates. The wine jar belongs to the community of centaurs. It is a gift from Dionysus, meant to be opened only when all are present. It is the common treasury. Hercules, with the arrogance of the individual, insists. He opens the jar. The smell of the wine, ancient, fermented, potent, wafts out of the cave. It acts like a pheromone, a chemical signal. The other centaurs, the wild ones, smell it from miles away. They go mad. They attack the cave, armed with rocks and fir trees. The breakdown of the guest rite, the sacred xenia, is immediate. Hercules fires his arrows. The arrows dipped in the Hydra's blood. He slaughters them. In the chaos, his friend Pholus, curious about the lethal power of the arrows, picks one up. It slips. It scratches his foot. He dies instantly. The poison does not distinguish between friend and foe. Even worse, a stray arrow strikes Chiron. Chiron is the wisest of all beings, the teacher of heroes, the keeper of the old medical knowledge. He is immortal, and this is the cruelty of the myth. Because he is immortal, he cannot die. But the Hydra venom causes incurable, agonizing pain. Chiron is trapped in a body that is screaming in eternal torture. He eventually trades his immortality to Prometheus just to be allowed to die. Hercules stands in the snow, surrounded by the corpses of the half-men, the bridge between nature and humanity. He has destroyed the teachers. He has wiped out the ancient shamans. The heroic age is being built on the genocide of the mystical. He leaves the massacre and climbs higher, into the snow zone. He finds the boar. He doesn't fight it. He shouts. He screams at the mountain, using sound to terrify the beast. He drives it into the deep snowdrift where its short legs fail, where its massive weight becomes its prison. The boar flounders, exhausted by the element of water, frozen into ice. Hercules nets it. He binds the beast alive. The image of Hercules returning to Mycenae with the boar is one of the most famous and puzzling in all of antiquity. He carries the monster into the court. King Eurystheus, the man who ordered this impossible task, sees the beast and is overcome with terror. He dives into a bronze jar, a pythos buried in the earth. Artists have laughed at this for millennia, the cowardly king hiding in a pot. But look closer. A pythos was used for storage, for grain, for oil, but also for burial. It is a survival pod. Why does the king hide underground at the sight of the boar? Perhaps the boar represents a cosmic catastrophe, a winter so severe, a wildness so uncontrollable, that the only survival strategy is to go into a bunker. The boar, in many Indo-European myths, brings the end of an age. The king hiding in the bronze jar is a memory of a civilization seeking shelter from a cataclysm that the hero has dragged back to the doorstep. Hercules stands over the jar laughing, the beast struggling on his shoulders. He has brought the wild winter into the palace. He has shown that the walls of the city cannot keep nature out. He has caught the time, the hind, and he has caught the catastrophe, the boar. He has killed the wisdom of the past, the centaurs. He is alone now, more than ever. The snow melts on his lion skin, mixing with the invisible dried blood of the Hydra and the fresh blood of the centaurs. He is becoming a vessel of immense trauma. The king peeks out from the rim of the bronze jar, his eyes wide with a fear that is not just about the animal, but about the man who holds it. The king knows he must break Hercules or Hercules will break the world. The stables, the king gasps from the safety of his hole. Go to Algaeus, clean his stables. It sounds like a joke, a task for a servant, not a hero. But the filth of the Augean stables is not ordinary manure. It is the accumulated debt of a kingdom that has not cleansed itself in 30 years. The mountains are behind him. The snow is behind him. Now, Hercules must descend into the valley of excrement. The physical danger is gone, replaced by a biohazard of epic proportions. How do you clean a world that has forgotten how to wash itself? The hero looks at his hands. They are strong enough to crush a lion, but are they clean enough to purify a kingdom? The snow of the mountain melts, running in rivulets down the hero's back, mixing with the sweat of the struggle. He leaves the high, thin air of the peaks where the boar was captured and descends into the valley of Elis. The air here does not bite, it chokes. A heaviness hangs over the land, a visible yellow haze that smells of ammonia and decay. We have moved from the clean violence of the wild to the stagnant corruption of civilization. The king, Eurystheus, hiding in his bronze jar, has devised a humiliation. He believes that if he cannot kill Hercules with monsters, he will break him with shame. He sends the son of Zeus to be a stable boy. The fifth labour is the cleansing of the Augean stables. To the modern ear, it sounds like a chore, a mundane task of agriculture. But we must understand the scale of the impossible. Augeas is a king of the Epeans, a son of the sun, Helios. His herds are not counted in the dozens, but in the thousands, vast immortal flocks that do not die, do not sicken, and do not stop consuming. For 30 years the stables have not been cleaned, 30 years of accumulation. The dung is not just piled on the floor, it has become the landscape. It is a geological stratum of filth, a monument to negligence. Pause and consider what this represents. In the language of myth, filth is rarely just biological waste. It is miasma. It is the physical manifestation of moral decay, of unpaid debts, of spiritual stagnation. A kingdom that does not clean its stables is a kingdom that doesn't process its history. It lets the past pile up until it chokes the living. Augeas is rich, his cattle are divine, but he is drowning in the byproducts of his own wealth. Is this not the terminal phase of every great empire? The accumulation of things and the inability to deal with the waste those things produce? Hercules arrives, not in the armour of a warrior, but in the tunic of a labourer. He approaches Augeas. He does not say, "I am sent by the king." He makes a wager. He offers to clean the entire complex in a single day in exchange for 1/10 of the cattle. Augeas laughs. He looks at the mountains of excrement solidified by time, vast as a city. He agrees, because to him the task is physically impossible. He sees a man with a shovel. But Hercules has no intention of using a shovel. The shovel is the tool of the human. It operates on human time, 1 scoop, 1 minute, 1 day. To move 30 years of history in 24 hours, one cannot work within the system. One must break the system. Hercules walks away from the stables. He walks to the edge of the valley, to the banks of the rivers Alpheus and Peneus. He stands there, listening to the rushing water, the only clean thing in this polluted land. This is the moment the myth reveals its true face. This is not a story about cleaning, it is a story about hydraulic engineering. Archaeologists working in the Mycenaean basins have found remnants of massive dikes, diverted, canals and drainage tunnels that date back to the Bronze Age. The civilization of this era was built on the mastery of water. Hercules lays down his weapons and picks up a pickaxe. He breaches the banks. He digs a trench, a violent scar across the earth, diverting the course of 2 mighty rivers. He does not ask the water to flow, he forces it. He turns the rivers into a weapon. The water hits the stables not as a gentle wash, but as a catastrophic flood. It is a tsunami of fresh water. It smashes through the walls, lifts the decades of compacted sediment, and scours the stone down to the bedrock. It is a civilizational reboot. We're reminded of the other great floods of antiquity, the deluge of Gilgamesh, of Noah, of Deucalion. The idea that when the world becomes too heavy with sin, too clogged with the refuse of the past, the only solution is to wash it all away. Hercules stands on the ridge, watching the torrent. He is the operator of the apocalypse. The roar of the water drowns out the lowing of the terrified cattle. The filth flows out to the sea, poisoning the fish, turning the blue waters brown. The labour is done before the sun sets. The stables are not just clean, they are erased and reborn. The rivers, their fury spent, are guided back to their courses. The land is wet, raw, and silent. But the silence is broken by a new kind of conflict. Hercules returns to Augeas for his payment. The king refuses. He has heard that Hercules was ordered to do this task by Eurystheus, and therefore, he argues, the labour was already owed. It was not a contract, it was a duty. He invokes a technicality to deny the debt. He exiles Hercules. This betrayal marks a turning point in the psyche of the hero. Up until now, Hercules has fought beasts, lions, hydras, boars. These were creatures of instinct. Now he faces the duplicity of man. He faces the lie. The physical filth of the stables has been washed away, but the moral filth of the king remains. The labour fails to purify the kingdom because the rot is in the throne, not the barn. Hercules leaves Elis, but he leaves a piece of his honour behind. The text tells us that this labour, like the Hydra, was discounting by Eurystheus. You did it for money, the king sneers, and you used the rivers, not your hands. The goalposts move again. The hero is trapped in a rigged game, but something has changed in him. He is no longer just the sufferer. He's beginning to keep a tally. He will return to Elis years later, not with a shovel, not with a river, but with an army. He will kill Augeas. He will sack the city. The cleaning was just the prelude to the war. It is said that after this labour, Hercules founded the Olympic Games near the site of the river breach. He paced out the stadium with his own feet. He planted the sacred olive trees. Why? Why build a festival of athletic perfection on the site of a river of dung? Perhaps it is a reminder that glory is built on the cleared ground of shame, that, before you can run the race, you must shovel the dirt. Or perhaps the games are a ritual to keep the energy flowing, to prevent the stagnation from ever returning. We leave the wet, glistening stones of Elis. The earth has been conquered. The water has been mastered. But the air is beginning to vibrate with a strange metallic sound. A rattling. A clattering of thousands of wings. We look up, and the sky's darkening not with clouds but with bronze. The next mystery does not wait in the mud. It waits in the marshes of Stymphalia, and it brings with it a question that haunts us to this day. In the ancient world, where does the animal end and the machine begin? The hero wipes the mud from his hands. He looks at the horizon. He's halfway through. The physical world is submitting to him, but the sky is full of sharp edges. The Stymphalian birds are rising, and they do not sing. They screech with the grinding of gears. The silence of the cleansed valley does not last. As we move deeper into the ancient woods of Arcadia, towards the marshy lake of Stymphalia, the air begins to vibrate. It is not the rustle of leaves or the call of the wild that we hear, but a grinding, a clicking, a metallic dissonance that sets the teeth on edge. The sixth labour awaits, and it brings with it a terrifying question that history has tried to bury. In the forgotten chapters of the past, where did the animal end and the machine begin? We are told that the Stymphalian birds were a plague. They infested the woods surrounding the lake, their numbers so vast that their wings blotted out the sun. But these were not ordinary birds. The poets tell us their beaks were made of bronze, their claws were metallic, their feathers were sharp as razors, and, most chilling of all, they could launch these feathers like arrows at their prey. They did not just hunt, they bombarded. They pierced the armour of men and the hides of cattle with the precision of ballistics. Pause for a moment in the dark undergrowth. Look up. Does a bird of flesh and blood evolve bronze armour? Does biology create a projectile weapon that detaches from the body? Or are we looking at a description of something else, filtered through the vocabulary of a Bronze Age storyteller who had no words for what he saw? Some theorists suggest these birds were automata, mechanical sentinels left over from a previous era of high technology, perhaps guarding something hidden in the lake. Others whisper that they were not creatures at all, but a memory of a sky filled with war machines, a localized recollection of an aerial bombardment where death rained from above. The bronze feathers falling from the sky sound suspiciously like shrapnel. Hercules arrives at the edge of the lake. The ground is treacherous. He cannot enter the marsh, for it is too deep for wading and too thick for a boat. The birds are safe in the centre, roosting in the reeds, hidden by the density of their own numbers. For the first time, Hercules is physically separated from his enemy. He cannot strangle them, he cannot strike them. His strength, his defining attribute, is rendered useless by distance and terrain. He sits on the bank, the strongest man in the world, impotent against a swarm. It is Athena who intervenes. The goddess of wisdom, the goddess of technology and strategy appears. She does not give him a bow. She gives him a pair of crotala, castanets, or rattles, forged by Hephaestus, the smith god. These are not musical instruments, they are sonic devices. Hephaestus is the god of mechanisms, of fire, of the forge. If the birds are machines, or if they are biological anomalies sensitive to frequency, then the crotala are the countermeasure. Hercules climbs a nearby hill. He raises the bronze clappers and begins to strike them. The sound is described as terrifying, a cacophony that echoes off the mountains. It is a sonic assault. We know today that certain acoustic frequencies can disrupt equilibrium, induce panic, or even interfere with guidance systems. As the rhythm intensifies, the birds rise. They cannot bear the vibration. The air, their domain, has been weaponized against them. They take flight in a chaotic cloud of metal and feathers. As they break cover, silhouetted against the pale sky, Hercules draws his bow. Now they are vulnerable. He shoots them down one by one, but he does not kill them all. The majority flee. They fly across the sea to the island of Ares in the Black Sea. They are not destroyed, they are merely driven away. The technology, or the curse, is exiled to the fringes of the known world. Hercules watches them go, the metallic glint of their wings fading into the horizon. He has learned that strength is nothing without the right frequency. He has learned that sometimes, to move a mountain, you do not push, you scream. But the hero is not allowed to rest. The land of Greece is clearing, but the sea is churning. Eurystheus looks at the map and points south, across the wine-dark waves to the island of Crete. The seventh labour calls. We leave the enclosed, claustrophobic forests and step onto the shoreline. The air smells of salt and iodine. The wind is stronger here. The Cretan bull is the target. This is not a monster of the shadows. It is a monster of the light. A magnificent white bull, rising from the sea, a gift from Poseidon to King Minos. It is beauty and power incarnate. But Minos, in his greed, refused to sacrifice it as he had promised. He kept the divine gift for himself. In retaliation, Poseidon drove the bull mad. This madness is not a biological disease. It is a geological metaphor. Crete sits on the tectonic boundary of the Hellenic Arc. It is a land plagued by earthquakes. In the ancient mind, the bull, with its roaring, its stomping, its immense power, was the symbol of the earth-shaker, Poseidon. The mad bull destroying the crops and toppling walls is the poetic memory of the seismic violence that tore the Minoan civilization apart. We know that the eruption of Thera and the subsequent tsunamis devastated this culture. The labour of the Cretan bull is the story of a hero trying to tame the earthquake itself. Hercules travels alone to the island. The civilization he finds is different. Older, stranger, obsessed with the bull. He enters the labyrinth of the landscape. The bull is rampaging, breathing fire, another volcanic illusion. Hercules does not kill it. You cannot kill an earthquake. You can only ride it out. He grapples with the beast. He forces the Earthshaker to its knees. He asserts the dominance of human will over the chaotic spasms of the planet. In a feat of impossible logistics, he rides the bull back across the sea to the mainland, to the Peloponnese. Visualize this: the hero floating on the back of the white beast, crossing the abyss of the waters. He brings the power of Crete to Greece. This is a historical transfer. The dominance of the Minoan civilization fades, and the Mycenaean power rises. Hercules literally carries the energy of the old empire to the new. But he makes a mistake. After showing the bull to Eurystheus, he releases it. He lets the earthquake go. The bull wanders to Marathon, where it will terrorize the locals for years until another hero, Theseus, finally kills it. Why did Hercules release it? Perhaps he understood that you cannot cage a force of nature forever. Or perhaps it was a warning. The violence you bring home will eventually turn against you. The sun sets on the seventh labour. The hero stands on the shore of the mainland, watching the white shape of the bull disappear into the hills of Attica. He is exhausted. He has fought the earth, the water, the sky, and the fire. He has faced the animals and the machines. But the next labour will take him to a place darker than any cave he has entered. It will take him to Thrace, to the edge of the barbarian world. The king speaks the next command in a whisper, as if he's afraid the words themselves will bite. The mares, he says, the mares of Diomedes. We feel a chill that has nothing to do with the wind. The previous monsters were dangerous, yes. The lion ate men because it was a lion. The bull destroyed because it was mad. But the mares are different. They are horses that have been taught to eat human flesh. This is not nature. This is a perversion of nature. This is what happens when civilization breaks down completely. Hercules tightens the lion skin around his shoulders. He knows that he is not going to hunt a beast. He is going to hunt a crime. The journey to the north begins, and the shadows lengthen across the road. The white foam of the Cretan sea is far behind us now. We turn our backs on the light, on the olive groves and the warm singing stone of the south. The road stretches northward, climbing into the jagged, wind-bitten peaks of Thrace. This is not the Greece of philosophers and marble temples. This is the edge of the map, the frontier of the known world, where the laws of men fray and snap like old rope. The air here tastes of iron and snow. The silence is different. It is not the peaceful silence of rest, but the predatory silence of waiting. The eighth labour does not ask the hero to conquer a beast of the wild. It asks him to confront a horror created by the hand of man. We are entering the domain of King Diomedes. He is a son of Ares, the god of war, and he rules over the Bistones, a people hardened by cold and conflict. But it is not his army that the poets whisper about in the dark. It is his stable. Diomedes possesses 4 mares: Podargos, the swift; Lampon, the shining; Xanthos, the golden; and Dinos, the terrible. Their names sound noble, solar, almost divine, but their nature is a blasphemy. These horses do not graze on grass. They do not drink from the clear streams. They are fed on the flesh of men. Pause and let the violation of that image sink in. The horse is the symbol of civilization, of partnership, of the noble herbivore that allowed humanity to conquer distance. To turn a horse into a carnivore is to invert the natural order. It is to take the vehicle of progress and turn it into a devourer of life. How does such a thing happen? Does a king wake up one day and decide to feed his guests to his steeds? Or is this a memory of a darker, forgotten epoch? Paleontologists tell us of the Andrewsarchus or the terror birds of the Eocene. apex predators that roamed the earth long before the horse evolved. Is the myth a garbled memory of a time when the things we rode hunted us? Or is it a metaphor for a military machine that consumes its own soldiers? Hercules arrives at the palace of Diomedes not as a guest but as a thief. He knows the rules of hospitality, Xenia, have been suspended here. The king binds strangers with bronze chains and casts them into the iron mangers. The stables are described not as barns, but as prisons. The floor is slick, not with manure, but with gore. Bones lie scattered in the straw, the white fragments of travellers who took the wrong turn. The horror is sensory. The smell is wrong. It is the copper tang of the slaughterhouse mixed with the musk of the animal. Hercules brings companions this time. Among them is Abderus, a youth of exquisite beauty, a lover or a son, the personification of the innocence that follows the hero. Hercules breaks the chains. He wrestles the mares, their eyes rolling in madness, their teeth snapping like wolf traps. He drags them out of the darkness towards the sea. But the alarm is raised. Diomedes and his army rush down from the citadel. The hero is caught between the monsters and the men. In a moment of fatal calculation, Hercules hands the reins of the mares to Abderus. "Hold them," he commands. "Guard them while I fight." He turns to face the army, confident in his strength, forgetting the nature of the burden he has passed to the boy. This is the tragedy of the hero. He assumes everyone possesses his power. He assumes the world is bearable for others just because it is bearable for him. Hercules fights with the fury of a storm. He routs the Bistones. He captures King Diomedes alive. But when he turns back to the sea, the silence is deafening. Abderus is gone. There is only a blood stain on the sand and the 4 mares standing quietly, their bellies full. They have eaten the boy. The innocent has been consumed by the madness the hero tried to contain. The grief that washes over Hercules is a tidal wave. It is the Nemean lion's cave all over again. The realization that victory often costs more than defeat. In a cold, dispassionate rage, Hercules drags the bound King Diomedes to the trough. He does not kill him with a sword. He feeds him to his own beasts. It is the ultimate poetic justice, a grim cycle of karma closing upon itself. The creator is consumed by his creation. As the mares tear into the flesh of their master, a strange thing happens. Their madness subsides. The man-eating fury drains out of them. Once they have tasted the source of the evil, they become tame. They become once again just horses. This transformation suggests that the monsters were never the animals. The monster was the man. The horses were merely the symptom of the king's psychic disease. By removing the toxic head of the state, the body of nature returns to balance. Hercules harnesses them to his chariot. He drives them away from Thrace, leaving behind a tomb for Abderus, the city of Abdera, which would one day become a centre of philosophy. Out of the jaws of death, the school of thought is born. But as he drives south, the reins heavy in his hands, Hercules is a changed man. He has looked into the abyss of human cruelty. He has seen that men can be more bestial than any hydra. The darkness of Thrace clings to him. He has learned that you can tame the beast, but you cannot bring back the dead. The mares are eventually released onto Mount Olympus, where they are eaten by wolves, nature reclaiming its own errors. The king, Eurystheus, however, is running out of monsters. He has sent Hercules to the edges of the map, and the hero has returned every time. Now the king looks not to the beasts, but to the social order. He looks to a power that threatens the very foundation of his patriarchal world. He does not want a skin or a hoof. He wants a symbol of authority. "The girdle," he whispers, his eyes narrowing. "Bring me the war belt of Hippolyta." The 9th labour requires a journey not into the wild, but into a different kind of civilization. The land of the Amazons, Themyscira, a society where women rule, where men are servants or absent, where the warrior caste is entirely female. To the Greeks, this was the anti-Athens, a terrifying inversion of their norms. But was it a myth? Archaeological graves in Scythia have revealed skeletons of women buried with armour, bows and battle scars. The Amazons were real horse lords of the steppes. Hercules must sail east, across the Black Sea to the banks of the Thermodon. He is not going to kill a monster, he is going to strip a queen of her power. The girdle is not a piece of clothing, it is the zoster, the war belt that signifies sovereignty, given by Ares himself. To take it is to dismantle the legitimacy of female rule. The wind shifts, the sails fill, the hero leaves the grave of his young friend and sails toward the sunrise. He thinks he's going for a simple theft, a scavenger hunt item for the king's daughter. But he is sailing into a war of genders, a conflict of ideologies that will end in one of the most regretful murders of his life. The bronze birds are gone, the man-eating mares are gone, but the misunderstood women of the steppe are waiting, and they do not fear the son of Zeus. The waves slap against the hull of the ship, counting down the miles. The mist rises from the water, obscuring the horizon. What is the price of a belt? What is the cost of rewriting history to erase the queens who once rode as equals? The answer lies on the shores of the Black Sea, where the blood will flow not from a beast but from a heart that offered him friendship. The ship cuts through the dark waters of the Black Sea, moving away from the known geometries of Greece toward the misty banks of the Thermodon River. We are leaving the lands where men rule and entering a geography that the ancient mapmakers marked with trembling hands. This is Themyscira, the capital of the Amazons. The ninth labour is not a hunt for a beast, nor a cleaning of a stable. It is a diplomatic mission that will turn into a crime scene. It is the story of how the old world of the mothers was dismantled, not by necessity, but by a tragic misunderstanding fueled by paranoia. Hercules seeks the belt of Hippolyta. The girdle, as it is often translated, sounds trivial to modern ears, like a fashion accessory. But words have memories. The Greek word is zoster, a heavy armoured war belt used to secure weapons and protect the vitals. It was the symbol of the basileia, the sovereignty. It was given to Hippolyta by Ares, the god of war. To take the belt was not to undress the queen, it was to abdicate her. It was to strip the matriarchy of its right to rule. When the ship docks, the scene is not what the myths of monsters have prepared us for. There are no walls of skulls, no shrieking demons. There is a civilization. Archaeologists excavating the kurgans of the Eurasian steppes have found the truth behind the myth. Women buried with battle axes, their legs bowed from a lifetime in the saddle, arrowheads embedded in their ribs. The Amazons were real. They were the Scythian horse lords where gender did not dictate the sword. Hercules steps onto the shore, perhaps expecting a fight. Instead, he is met with curiosity. Hippolyta comes down to the harbour. She's described not as a savage, but as a peer. She sees Hercules, this massive, scarred man wearing the skin of a lion, and she recognises a fellow predator. The interaction between them is one of the most poignant what-ifs in mythology. They do not fight, they talk. Hippolyta listens to his story, to the orders of the petty king Eurystheus, and she agrees to give him the belt. She offers it freely. Pause here. Why? Why would a warrior queen surrender her symbol of power to a foreign invader without drawing a blade? Perhaps she understood that the belt was just an object, and true power resided in the blood. Or perhaps she saw the weariness in Hercules, the man driven by a madness he couldn't control, and offered a gesture of grace. It was a moment of perfect equilibrium. the masculine and feminine forces of the ancient world standing in a truce, ready to exchange gifts. But history, or at least the version of it written by the victors, rarely tolerates equilibrium. The myth says that Hera, the architect of Hercules' misery, disguised herself as an Amazon and walked among the people. She whispered a lie. She spread the rumour that the stranger was not there to take the belt but to abduct the queen. She played on the deepest fear of a free people, the fear of enslavement. Panic is a spark in dry grass. The Amazons, seeing their queen on the Greek ship, believed the lie. They charged. They rowed down to the beach, bows drawn, crying out for the safety of their leader. Hercules, seeing the armed mob, did what a man of trauma always does. He assumed he had been betrayed. He didn't wait. He didn't ask questions. The instinct of the Nemean lion took over. He drew his sword and killed Hippolyta. It was a reflex, a spasm of violence born of distrust. The woman who had offered him the gift of peace lay dead at his feet. In the chaos of the skirmish that followed, Hercules ripped the blood-stained belt from her body and fought his way back to the ship. The Greeks cast off, leaving the leaderless society burning on the shore. This labour is the turning point of the soul. Until now, Hercules has killed monsters, cleaned filth, and outwitted kings. But here, he has murdered a possibility. He has destroyed a functioning alternative to the patriarchal order. The belt is carried back to Mycenae, but it's a hollow victory. It is a looted artifact stripped of its context. It hangs in the court of Eurystheus, not as a symbol of bravery, but as a trophy of erasure. We look at this story and wonder, was the war against the Amazons a real historical campaign to wipe out the matrilineal cultures of the East? Was the theft of the girdle a metaphor for the theft of the lineage? The hero sails away, but the ghost of the queen follows in the wake. The Black Sea is behind him. The mountains of Thrace are behind him. The world is shrinking. There are no more directions to explore in the east or the north. The king looks at the map and sees only one place left. The west, the unknown, the place where the sun dies every evening. The cattle, Eurystheus commands, his voice trembling slightly. He knows he's sending Hercules off the edge of the world. Bring me the red cattle of Geryon. To find them, Hercules must go to Erythea, the Red Island. This is not a real place on any modern chart. It is located beyond the Straits of Gibraltar, out in the terrifying expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. To the ancient Greeks, the Mediterranean was the world. The Atlantic was the void. It was the Oceanus, the river that encircled the earth. To sail into it was to sail into the afterlife. Hercules travels to the very limit of the land. He reaches the narrow passage between Africa and Europe. The texts say that in his frustration with the heat of the sun, or perhaps to mark the boundary of his journey, he smashed the mountains apart. He created the Straits of Gibraltar. He erected the Pillars of Hercules, two massive columns of rock, one in the north, one in the south, non plus ultra, nothing further beyond, but he goes beyond. He borrows the cup of the sun, a golden vessel used by Helios to travel the night ocean, and sails into the Atlantic. He finds the Red Island. The colour red is significant. It is the colour of the sunset, the colour of blood, the colour of the death realm. Geryon, the owner of the cattle, is a monster with 3 bodies conjoined at the waist. He is a triple man. He's guarded by a 2-headed dog, Orthrus, the brother of Cerberus. Everything here is a distortion of reality. A 3-bodied man, a 2-headed dog, red cows. It is a dreamscape. Hercules kills the dog with a single blow of his club, the olive wood smashing the skull of the underworld's guardian. He kills the herdsman, Eurytion. And finally he faces Geryon. He shoots the triple man with a single arrow that pierces all three bodies at once. The arrow, dipped in the Hydra's blood, finds the one angle that connects the three hearts. It is a geometry of death. He herds the cattle onto the golden cup. He sails back through the pillars, back into the safety of the Middle Sea. But the journey home is a nightmare. The cattle are wild, they scatter. He chases them through Italy, through Sicily, creating the geography of the future Roman world as he goes. It is a long, winding cattle drive that maps the contours of Europe. When he finally returns to Mycenae, Eurystheus sacrifices the red cattle to Hera. The rare, magical creatures from the edge of the world are slaughtered and burned. Their blood sinks into the Greek soil. It seems like a waste. But perhaps that was the point. The mysteries of the outer dark must be domesticated, killed, and consumed by the gods of the centre. The red cattle may represent the knowledge of a lost Atlantic civilization, maybe the same one Plato whispered about, brought back and subsumed by the growing power of the Mediterranean. Hercules stands by the altar, the smoke stinging his eyes. He has gone to the east and killed the queen. He has gone to the west and killed the triple king. He has defined the boundaries of the world. He has erected the pillars. He is the master of the horizontal plane. He has mapped the earth. But the sky still hangs above him, heavy and unsolved, and the deep earth beneath him still holds its secrets. The king, Eurystheus, realizes that horizontal distance is no longer a challenge for this man. You cannot send him further. You must send him deeper. The apples, the king says, bring me the golden apples of the Hesperides. Hercules looks up. He knows this is different. He does not know where the Hesperides are. No map shows them. They are not in a country. They are in a condition. They are in the garden of the night, guarded by the daughters of the evening star. To get there, he will not need a ship. He will need a Titan. He will have to find the one man who knows the weight of the heavens. The smoke of the sacrifice clears, but the smell of the red blood lingers. The hero prepares to leave the earth he has conquered and ascend to the axis of the world. The horizontal journey is over. The vertical ascent begins. The map is exhausted. We have walked the perimeter of the known world, from the frozen marshes of the north to the sun-bleached pillars of the west. Hercules has conquered the longitude and latitude of the earth, but the king, Eurystheus, sitting in his darkened palace, knows that there is one direction the hero has not yet travelled. He has not gone up, and he has not gone outside of time. The 11th labour is a command that breaks the rules of geography entirely. "Bring me the golden apples," the king whispers, "the apples of the Hesperides." This is not a quest for a rare fruit. It is a quest for the source code of immortality. The Garden of the Hesperides is the Greek echo of a universal memory. The Garden of Eden, the Grove of Eridu, the celestial orchard where the tree of life grows. It is guarded by the Hesperides, the nymphs of the evening, and by Ladon, a dragon who never sleeps. Where is this place? Some say it is in the Hyperborean north. Others say it is at the edge of the Atlantic sunset. But perhaps it is not a place on earth at all. Perhaps the golden apples are the stars, the fruit of the night sky, and the tree is the axis of the heavens around which they revolve. Hercules does not know the way. For the first time, the hero is lost. He wanders through Macedonia and Illyria, asking the river spirits, the nymphs, the stones. He is told that he must find Nereus, the old man of the sea. Nereus is a primordial deity, older than Zeus, older than the Olympians. He knows all things, but he will not speak unless he is forced. Hercules finds him sleeping on a rock near the shore. He grabs him, and instantly the reality of the world destabilizes. Nereus shifts. He becomes a roaring fire in Hercules' arms, then a rushing torrent of water, then a lion, a serpent, a tree. This is the shapeshifter archetype we see in shamanic traditions globally. Truth is not static, it is fluid. Hercules holds on. He doesn't fight the fire or the water, he simply endures the transformation. He holds the intention. Finally, exhausted by his own fluidity, Nereus returns to his old form and whispers the secret. You cannot pluck the apples yourself. You must get the Titan to do it for you. The Titan is Atlas, and to find him, Hercules must cross the Caucasus Mountains. Here, he finds a tragedy that has been bleeding for centuries. Prometheus, the Titan who gave fire to humanity, is chained to a rock. Every day, an eagle, the hound of Zeus, descends to eat his liver. Every night, the liver regenerates, and the torture begins anew. This is the price of enlightenment. Hercules, the son of the god who ordered this torture, raises his bow. He shoots the eagle. The bird falls. He breaks the chains. This is a monumental moment. The hero of the new order, Olympus, frees the prisoner of the old order, the Titans. It is a healing of the generational trauma of the gods. In gratitude, Prometheus confirms the advice of Nereus. Do not go into the garden. The dragon is the constellation Draco. It is death to mortals. Go to my brother Atlas. He holds the sky. He can enter the garden. Hercules travels to the western edge of the world, to the place where the mountains touch the clouds. There stands Atlas. We often picture him holding the earth, but the classical statues show him holding the celestial sphere, the star chart, the universe, the heavy, grinding machinery of the cosmos. He has stood there since the Titanomachy, the great war of the beginning. He is the pillar that keeps the sky from collapsing onto the earth. Hercules approaches him. The conversation is strange. Performed in the thin air of the stratosphere, Hercules makes an offer. I will hold the sky for you if you fetch the apples for me. Atlas looks down. He has not moved in eons. The prospect of freedom, even for an hour, is intoxicating. He agrees. Now, we witness the greatest physical feat of the Heraclean myth. It is not killing a lion. It is assuming the weight of existence. Atlas shifts the burden. Hercules steps under the sphere. The text does not give us enough detail here, but imagine the sensation. It is not just heavy, it is crushing. It is the weight of every star, every planet, every vast silence between the galaxies. It compresses the spine. It threatens to obliterate the ego. Hercules becomes the axis mundi, the pivot of the world. He sweats under the infinite. He realizes that strength is not about what you can lift. It is about what you can withstand without breaking. Atlas goes to the garden. He passes the dragon Ladon. Perhaps the beast knows him, or perhaps the Titan is invisible to the guardians of the night. He plucks 3 golden apples. He returns to find Hercules trembling under the load, and here the myth takes a turn into psychological warfare. Atlas is free. He holds the apples and he looks at Hercules, pinned like a butterfly under the thumb of the universe. He tastes the air. He stretches his arms. I will take the apples to the king myself, Atlas says. You keep holding the sky. I will come back. It is a lie. They both know it is a lie. If Atlas leaves, he will never return. Hercules will be trapped forever, a stone statue of flesh holding up the roof of the world. Strength cannot save him now. Violence cannot save him. He cannot throw the sky at Atlas. He must use the only weapon left, his mind. Hercules agrees. That is fair, he says, his voice strained under the pressure. But the sphere is rubbing against my skull. Just hold it for one moment while I put a pad of lion skin on my head to cushion the weight. It is a simple, almost childish trick. But Atlas is not a creature of guile. He is a creature of endurance. He is literal-minded. He thinks, why not? He puts the apples on the ground. He steps back under the sphere. The weight transfers back to the Titan. The trap snaps shut. Hercules picks up the apples. He picks up his club. He looks at Atlas, who is once again locked in his eternal pose. There is no mockery, only a sad necessity. One must hold the sky so the other can walk free. Farewell, Hercules says. He turns and walks away, leaving the Titan to his duty. The sky did not crush him, but the trickery might have weighed on his soul. He returns to Mycenae with the glowing fruit. Eurystheus is stunned. These are not earthly objects. They vibrate with the divine resonance. The king realizes he cannot keep them. To possess the fruit of immortality without earning it is a curse. He hands them back to Hercules. Hercules gives them to Athena. The goddess, smiling, returns them to the garden. The circle closes. The apples were never meant to be owned. They were only meant to be touched, a proof that the hero could reach the impossible. The 11th labor is complete. The hero has touched the stars. He has held the universe. He has outsmarted the oldest gods. But there is one number left. 12. The zodiac has 12 houses. The year has 12 months. And the final house is not in the sky. It is not on the earth. The king, Eurystheus, has run out of places. He has nowhere left to send Hercules but to the one place from which no traveller returns. He looks at the hero, whose hair is now streaked with the grey of the sky he held, and he plays his final card. Cerberus, the king says, bring me the dog of hell. The room goes cold. The courtiers step back. This is not a labour, it is a death sentence. To get the dog, Hercules must die. He must descend into Hades, the realm of shadows, the kingdom of the silent majority. The apples of life are gone. The sun is setting on the age of heroes. Hercules checks his weapons, but he knows that in the land of the dead a sword cuts only air. He must walk into the grave with his eyes open. The apples of the Hesperides have been returned to the gods, but the heavy silence of the cosmos still presses down on the hero's shoulders. He has held the sky, and something in his spine, or perhaps his soul, has permanently shifted. He is no longer the brash warrior who strangled a lion in the sunlight. He is a man who has touched the infinite and found it cold. The king, Eurystheus, sensing this change, issues the final command with a trembling voice. He does not send Hercules to a place on the map. He sends him to the end of all maps. Bring me Cerberus, he says. Bring me the guardian of the dead. But one does not simply walk into the underworld. To cross the threshold of the living without dying is a violation of cosmic law. Before Hercules can descend, he must first learn how to die while still breathing. He travels not to the cave of hell immediately, but to the sanctuary of Eleusis. This is the missing chapter in many retellings, yet it is the most crucial psychological pivot of the entire myth. Here, in the dark halls of the Telesterion, the mysteries of Demeter and Persephone are guarded. These are the rites that explain the cycle of the grain. It must be buried in the earth and rot before it can be reborn. Hercules arrives at the temple gates, covered in the dust of the world and the invisible stains of the centaur's blood. The hierarch, Eumolpus, stops him. Your hands are red, the priest says. The dead do not accept the impure. This is the first time Hercules is stopped not by a monster, but by a moral barrier. He cannot use his strength to force his way into enlightenment. He must submit. He undergoes the mysis, the cleansing. He washes in the sea with a piglet, transferring his guilt to the animal. He sits in the dark, fasting, drinking the kykeon, the psychoactive potion of barley and mint. In the hallucinogenic darkness of the initiation, Hercules sees the truth that has eluded him through all previous labours, that his enemies were never really the beasts. The lion, the hydra, the boar, they were all projections of his own internal chaos. To survive the underworld, he must stop being Hercules the Destroyer. He must become transparent. He must shed his ego like the snake sheds its skin. He learns the secret password of the dead. He learns that fear is just a vibration, and if you do not vibrate with it, it cannot touch you. Cleansed, but carrying a terrifying stillness, he travels to Taenarum in Laconia. This is the mouth of the vent. The landscape here is scorched, the rocks twisted as if in pain. A cave opens in the cliff face, breathing out a mist that smells of sulphur and stale lilies. This is the physical entrance to Hades. Most heroes who entered here did so out of grief. Orpheus for his wife, Theseus for a dare. Hercules enters out of duty, which is the coldest form of courage. He steps into the tunnel. The light of the upper world fades to a grey twilight. The descent is long, the air grows heavy, pressing against the eardrums. He reaches the banks of the Acheron, the river of woe. Charon the ferryman poles his skiff through the oily water. He sees the living man, too heavy, too solid, and refuses passage. Hercules does not threaten him with the club. He simply stares. It is the stare of a man who has already died at Eleusis. Charon sees the mark of the initiate in his eyes and silently allows him to board. As they cross, the ghosts of the past begin to gather. They are like smoke, drifting over the water. Hercules sees the faces of men he killed in battle, the women he failed to save. They reach out with insubstantial hands. In a moment of panic, he draws his sword. It is a reflex of the old life. But the blade passes through the spirits with a harmless hiss. Meleager, a dead hero, whispers to him, "Put away the iron, brother. We are only memory. You cannot kill what is already gone." This is the hardest lesson. Hercules has solved every problem in his life with violence. Now, surrounded by the consequences of violence, he realizes his tools are useless. He sheathes the sword. He must walk through his guilt without fighting it. He must let the ghost touch him. He walks past the judges of the dead, Minos, Rhadamanthus, Aeacus. They watch him pass, their pens hovering over the ledgers of souls, confused by this anomaly who is both judged and judge. He moves deeper into the Tartarean gloom. He sees his friends, Theseus and Pirithous, bound to the chair of forgetfulness. They went to the underworld to steal a bride and were trapped by the rock itself growing into their flesh. Hercules pulls Theseus free with a heave that cracks the stone floor of hell. But when he tries to grab Pirithous, the earth shakes violently. The domain of death rejects the rescue. Some debts, the earth says, must be paid. He has to leave Pirithous behind. It is a laceration of the heart. You cannot save everyone. Even the strongest man in the world cannot rewrite the laws of karma. Finally, he stands before the palace of Hades. The obsidian walls glitter with a dark inner light. The air is absolutely still. There is no wind, no sound of birds, only the slow, rhythmic breathing of something massive guarding the gate. He has reached the bottom of the universe, the horizontal journey, the vertical ascent, and now the internal descent are complete. He is not a warrior anymore. He is an ambassador of the living in the court of silence. He lays his club on the ground. He unslings his bow. He stands naked in his lion skin, armed only with the grip of his hands and the quiet power of his initiation. Ahead of him, in the shadows, 3 pairs of eyes open. They glow with a pale, green fire. A low growl begins, vibrating through the soles of his feet, rising in pitch until it sounds like the tearing of metal. The transition is over. The preparation is done. The final labour is no longer a hunt. It is a confrontation with the impossible. The beast steps out of the gloom, its 3 heads weaving in a hypnotic dance, the serpent tail lashing the air. Hercules takes a breath of the stale dead air and steps forward to meet the final darkness. The map of the living world is exhausted. The hero has walked every road, sailed every sea, and even held the crushing weight of the stars upon his shoulders. But the king, Eurystheus, sitting in the fading light of his palace, has one final card to play. It is the card of the impossible. He does not point to the mountains or the ocean or the sky. He points down. He points to the cracks in the earth where the steam rises and the birds refuse to fly. "The dog," the king whispers, and the word hangs in the air like smoke. "Bring me Cerberus." The court falls silent. This is not a request for a trophy. It is a death sentence. To fetch the guardian of the underworld, one must cross the river Styx, walk through the gates of shadow, and return. No mortal does this. To enter Hades is to become a ghost. Eurystheus believes he has finally cornered the son of Zeus. He is sending him to the one place where strength has no meaning, where the muscle of the arm withers before the silence of the soul. Hercules does not rage. He does not argue. He turns and walks out of the city, but he does not go straight to the cave of descent. He goes to Eleusis. This is a crucial, often overlooked detail in the secret history of the hero. Before he can face death, he must understand it. He initiates himself into the Eleusinian mysteries. He stands in the dark hall of the Telesterion. He is purified by the priests, washed of the blood of the centaurs, the blood of the Amazons, the blood of his own children. He learns the aporeta, the forbidden secrets of the grain and the grave. He learns that death is not an end, but a threshold. Only then, with his mind fortified by the ancient rites, does he walk to Tenarum, the mouth of hell. The descent is not a physical climb. It is a sensory deprivation. The air grows cold, stripped of the scent of pine and sea. The light turns to a bruised purple, then to grey. He passes the shades of the dead, who drift like smoke. They recognize him, the man who is too solid, too loud, too alive for this fragile place. He sees the heroes he failed to save. He sees the monsters he killed, now toothless phantoms. He walks through his own past, but he does not stop. He reaches the throne of the underworld. Hades and Persephone sit there, the dark mirror of Zeus and Hera. The king of the dead looks at the intruder. There is no anger, only a vast, indifferent curiosity. Hercules asks for the dog. It is an absurd request, like asking to borrow the gravity of a black hole. Hades smiles, a cold expression that cracks the silence. "You may take him," Hades says, his voice sounding like shifting tectonic plates. "But you must not use your weapons. No club, no arrows, no iron. If you can master the beast with your bare hands, he is yours. It is the ultimate test. The tools of the hero, the bronze, the wood, the Hydra's poison, are stripped away. He is left with nothing but his own nature. He walks to the gates of Acheron, where the beast waits, Cerberus, the hound of the threshold. He's not merely a dog, he is a biological nightmare. 3 heads, a mane of writing serpents, a tail that is a dragon. He is the embodiment of the terror of death. Hercules steps into the darkness. He wraps his arms around the 3 necks. The beast roars, a sound that shakes the roots of the mountains. The dragon tail whips and bites, injecting venom into the hero's skin. The serpents strike at his face, but Hercules does not let go. He wears the skin of the Nemean lion, the armour of the first labour protecting him in the 12th. It is a perfect circle. The beginning saves him at the end. He squeezes. He does not kill. He dominates. He chokes the breath of the underworld. He forces the chaos of the instinct to submit to the will of the human. The dog struggles, thrashing, clawing, but the grip of the hero is the grip of absolute inevitability. Slowly, the heads droop. The whining replaces the roaring. The guardian of hell whimper in submission. Hercules drags the beast up. The ascent is harder than the descent. He's pulling the weight of the unconscious mind into the light of consciousness. As they breach the surface at Trozen, the sunlight hits the creature. Cerberus has never seen the sun. He vomits in pain and terror. The foam from his jaws hits the earth, and instantly sprouts into aconite, wolfsbane, the plant of poison and magic. Even in defeat, the underworld leaves a toxic legacy on the living earth. He walks back to Mycenae. The people flee. The sky darkens as the aura of the dead dog passes. Hercules enters the throne room. He releases the chain. Cerberus stands there, confused, terrifying, a shadow that breathes. King Eurystheus does not just hide in his jar this time, he screams. He realizes that Hercules has done the one thing that power cannot tolerate. He has conquered the fear of death. A man who has walked into hell and walked out again cannot be ruled. He cannot be threatened. He is free. The king begs him to take the beast back. Hercules nods. The labour is done. The cycle is complete. He returns the dog to the gate and the gates clang shut. But as Hercules stands there alone on the road, the silence is different now. The madness that started the journey, the ache, the fury, is gone, but it has been replaced by a terrible clarity. He looks at his hands. They have shaped the geography of the world. They have diverted rivers, separated continents, held up the sky, and choked the guardian of death. He is the saviour of the Greeks, the Alexikakos, avatar of evil. And yet looking at him, we see the tragedy of the survivor. He has saved the world, but he has no place in it. He is too big, too dangerous, too saturated with the trauma of the 12 stations. The civilization he built has no room for the builder. He's a relic of a time of monsters, stranded in the time of men. The myth tells us that Hercules does not live a happy life after the labours. He is betrayed by love, poisoned by the very centaur blood he spilled, and finally burned himself alive on a pyre on Mount Oeta to escape the pain. The mortal part of him burns away, and the divine part ascends to Olympus. But tonight, let us leave him here, at the end of the 12th labour, standing between the light of the sun and the dark of the cave. He is the ultimate symbol of the human condition. We are all given a set of labours, our own lions to fight, our own stables to clean, our own hells to descend into. The story of Hercules suggests that the purpose of life is not to avoid the monsters, but to integrate them, to wear the lion's skin, to use the enemy's own claws to cut the hide, to hold the sky and realize it is heavy, but not crushing. The mist closes in on the road to Mycenae. The statues of the hero will be carved in white marble, smooth and perfect. But we know the truth now. We know the mud, the blood, the sweat, and the shadows that lie beneath the stone. The labours are finished. The hero sleeps. But the fire that forged him, that fire never truly goes out. So, as you drift off into the dark, ask yourself, what is the monster guarding your gate? And do you have the courage to reach out in the silence and simply hold it until it quiets down? Sleep well, the journey is over.